Welcome to this first of several videos on Nebraska's system of classifying and applying standards to its highways, roads, and streets. Before watching this series of videos on classifications and standards, it is important that you watch two other introductory videos. First, the prelude to the video series, and second, Managing Nebraska's Public Roads and Streets and Introduction, the Big Picture. These two videos introduce the entire video series and provide information useful in knowing and understanding before going through the Classifications and Standards video series. They can be found at the web link shown on this slide. This video describes the scope of all of the Classification and Standards videos, gives a brief review of Nebraska law as it pertains to classification and standards for Nebraska's highways, roads, and streets, and briefly introduces the Nebraska Administrative Code Title 428, in particular for classification and standards. First, some terminology and acronyms. NBCS is the Nebraska Board of Public Roads, Classifications and Standards. It may also be called the Board of Public Roads or just the Board. Standards refers to the NBCS standards including design, construction, maintenance, and relaxation of standards. MDS refers to the minimum design standards, which address only the design aspect of a work or project. Standards are often termed minimum, but realize there are maximums for superelevation and grade, and ranges for cross slopes. When we say minimum, sometimes it refers to all of those. NEB-REV-STAT refers to the Nebraska Revised Statutes. NAC is the Nebraska Administrative Code. These are regulations that have the force of law. The word highway in Nebraska law also refers to roads and streets. Highway means the entire width between the boundary limits of any street, road, avenue, boulevard, or way which is publicly maintained when any part is open to the use of the public for purposes of vehicular travel. 3R is short for resurfacing, restoration, and rehabilitation. For more details, see the video dedicated to 3R. FC is functional classification. The next screen identifies the topics covered in each classification and standards video. This video is an introduction to the entire series of videos on classification and standards. Topics covered in other videos in this series include video number 2, the basics of Nebraska's functional classification system, video number 3, the standards, and beginning with video number 4, several videos covering the minimum design standards for county roads and municipal streets, including the main elements and criteria, finding the correct table for any given segment of a road or street with an example, definitions and notes, 3R requirements, finding the correct values in the standards tables with an example, and bridges and structures, which has 2 parts. Finally, there is a video on Americans with Disabilities Act, also known as ADA. The ADA is a federal law. It is not a part of Nebraska's design standards. It is included for information only, as it may affect the scope of works or projects on roads and streets. It is recommended that you view these videos in this order because each one builds on or references the previous video or videos. Video number 3 gives an overview of the standards and covers construction standards, minimum maintenance standards, relaxation of standards, and standard compliance inspection procedures. Details on minimum design standards are presented in the videos following video number 3. This series of videos is oriented toward county highway superintendents and city street superintendents, or anyone interested in Nebraska's system of classification and standards for county roads and municipal streets. State highway standards generally are not addressed in this series of videos. State highway standards apply to relatively few miles of county roads and municipal streets. The following is a brief review of Nebraska law as it pertains to classification and standards for Nebraska's highways, roads, and streets. State Statute 39-2101 is a declaration that provides a broad overview or the big picture view of 1969 legislation, which was a significant change in Nebraska's approach to its system of highways, roads, and streets. The Nebraska legislature recognized, determined, and declared that safe and efficient transportation over public roads is a matter of major importance to all Nebraskans. An integrated system of public roads is essential to the general welfare of the state. And adequate public roads provide for the free flow of traffic, protect the health and safety of the citizens of the state, result in lower cost of motor vehicle operation, increase property values, and generally promote the economic and social progress of the state. Fundamental to the development of an integrated system of public roads is a determination of the function that each road segment serves. This is where the video on functional classification basics fits into the big picture. Through adoption by law of a functional classification system, it is the intent of the legislature that each segment of public road shall be identified according to the function it serves. According to a few defined functions, overall determined by the road's mobility, think traffic moving quickly and possibly over long distances, such as an interstate expressway or arterial, and by the road's amount of at-grade access points, think collector and local roads. Identifying functional classifications permits the establishment of uniform standards for design, construction, and maintenance. This is where the videos on the standards fits into the big picture. Establishment of a Board of Public Roads, Classifications, and Standards, which has NDOT, county, municipal, and general public representation, provides that each governmental entity and the public will have equal voice in developing reasonable standards for each classification of road, and standards shall be adequate to meet the needs of an increasingly mobile society. Nebraska's public roads system is one of the nation's largest systems. It serves sparsely populated areas as well as large urban centers. All of these areas have transportation needs. Nebraska standards address roads that have a variety of functions. Nebraska legislation recognizes that there is not enough money to build every road and street to arterial-type standards, and it emphasizes good program management and cooperation at all levels of government. For the final segment of this video, let's take a brief look at the Nebraska Administrative Code, Title 428. NBCS rules and regulations in Title 428 can be found on the Secretary of State's website, listed under the Department of Transportation. As you can see on the screen, there are several other rules associated with the Nebraska Department of Transportation. These include rules such as Title 407, Hearing, Practice, and Procedure for the Nebraska Department of Transportation. Title 411 is Traffic Division, the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices. Title 425, Regulations for the Board of Examiners for County Highway and City Street Superintendents. And finally, Title 428, the one we are most concerned with for this video series, has regulations for the Board of Public Roads, Classifications, and Standards. There are two chapters in 428 Nebraska Administrative Code. Chapter 1 has procedures for classifications, and Chapter 2 has procedures for standards. This has been an introduction to the videos that will address Nebraska's system of classification and standards.